Hello and welcome to Royale Without Cheese, our bi-weekly podcast in which we discuss both the classic and the unknown of art and popular cinema from the then and now. We are your hosts, me, Tomás Ferreira, Leonardo Miranda,
Here I am.
here you are, and Miguel Aido.
Howdy.
Howdy. Today we talk about Blade Runner 2049, but before any ado, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, or simply give us a like. Blade Runner 2049 is a 2017 American neo-noir science fiction film directed by Denis Villeneuve and written by Hampton Fancher and Michael Green. A sequel to the 1982 film Blade Runner, the film stars Harrison Ford and Ryan Gosling, the latter playing K, a replicant Blade Runner who uncovers the secret capable to destabilize the course of civilization as he knows it. Ideas for a Blade Runner sequel were first proposed in the 1990s, and this final sequel released in 2017 was received with great critical acclaim. However, was Royale Without Cheese as impressed with his new android dream? Fellas, what do we think? Are we ready for the future?
Fellas. Michael?
I'm torn.
What
I
is
am
that? What is
torn.
that? Are you thorn?
I'll just say I'm torn and move on. A lot of good things, kind of things I don't really care
So-
much about.
We're talking about 2049.
Yes, isn't this the film we're discussing?
It is the
Which
film,
film?
but it is a review. I'm going to constantly be kind of comparing it to Blade Runner, the first one, so my mind is mixed between the two. But 2049,
Yes,
Solely on it?
49. No, Blade Runner, the original, just very solid.
Yeah.
I think. Sure, it has its stuff, but I mean,
because
not
that's the
really
thing.
worth
There's always a
pointing.
sense of comparison. So I really want to ask you, what was the thing that didn't quite click for you? It's hard to define it.
It's hard to define. I mean, it's just my general interest for the story wasn't fully achieved, I think.
Right.
I saw the original Blade Runner, and there's this mystery about everything that really reels you in. And it just doesn't happen here. I do think that the story is interesting. The idea of them having children and who Kay is, that is all, at least at the premise level, I think that's interesting. But at the end, I'm just not fully engaged by the film, even though there are very good moments. And visually, I think Villeneuve is like a Ridley Scott disciple. I mean, he does really well these sorts of epic films. And he really likes like the human form, I think, and giant things.
Yeah, he
Like you
does.
see that in Dune
And
here.
floating objects, they are
Yes.
weird.
Even in the film Enemy, you have these giant spiders appearing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, visually is just the perfect director for this sort of film, and this sequel. But then something is missing, and I even felt that kind of with Dune, where I really like the film, but at the same time, there's something preventing me from really getting to the characters and the emotionality of everything. And in here, kind of as well. I do really like the ending of this film, and I really do like the reveal about Kay. But I don't think that's enough, and so I'm kind of torn because I'm kind of in the middle. I wish I liked it more, but I also like a lot of things. So strange world.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm a bit
What do you
like
guys
that
think?
too. Yeah. A bit torn. Because it's again similar to The Long Goodbye in the sense I like the mood of the film. There's a sadness to the Ryan Gosling character that is it's interesting to see him wrestle with these feelings, this potential of being like a prophet, being like a special thing, being a special android, whatever. I don't even know what they're called. Humanoid.
Replicant.
A replicant, yeah, exactly.
Call him by their names.
By their names. Yeah, but
Replicant.
being
Nexus 6.
being a special replicant and then not being. But the reality is like he still felt these things. Like even if it's based on a lie, he did feel it. He did feel emotions that he's supposed not to feel, even if the memory is not his own. So I do think those ideas are interesting. And by the end, I love the ending too with him, his sad death, and I feel for him. I think that's it's a strong part of the film. And I think Ryan Gosling, even though he doesn't have to do like incredible acting emotionally, I think his deadpanness works a lot for the character, at least for me. But then there's things with the plot that I just don't care that much about, and maybe it's because I'm not a huge fan of the original. I like it, but it's not a film that I think that much about. So the whole thing with Deckard and Rachel and the daughter and or the son and the whole conversation, it feels like times it's just asking questions to get answers. And Ryan Gosling, I know he's a detective, so that's part of it, but I don't care that much. I'm more interested in the mood of the film, but at times it feels like the plot gets a little in the way of it and I'm not fully immersed in it.
Yeah, and the film sometimes kind of jumps slightly, and you don't really know how you got there. Like for example, when when Kay goes to visit Deckard, and they get in that fight, and they're both passed out. One is in the ground, the other is in the ship.
Mhm.
I mean, these are like Wallace's people, and Deckard goes with love, but then somehow Kay isn't with these people and ends up with those sort of rebellious
Yeah,
group of people.
I don't
You don't
know.
really see how that happened or why you would be left there and then picked up by some other people. And I just wondered how how did this happen? How did we jump from this to that? And there are moments like this in the film where you don't really understand the jump. And it just feels like we needed to get to someplace and we just went there by force.
Yeah, there is a criticism to the resistance replicants that I have there as well, and I completely agree with that aspect of the jump is a little bit strange. But for me, for example, I am as well divided, but not thorned. Like I think, to be fair with the movie, this is a very good sequel that, for being a blockbuster, is as well a film filled with ideas. I mean, he's very good. The thing is, it's not often that you have a blockbuster sequel that enhances the ideas of the previous film and actually tries to have a story that has deeper meaning. Every other scene has a new idea. This is the third time I'm watching this film, so
Yeah,
I kind
me
of
too.
picked up on things that I didn't even kind of saw in the first time around or second. I think the film is very interesting in the sense that it expands ideas that were already living and breathing in the first film, and now it creates, not only it deepens them, but it creates its own question. For example, the what is so interesting about it as a sequel is that he's very able to play to the action and the spectacle of it, but as well try and find what's the new philosophical question and character question, emotional question that we can ask in with this film. He's very has a lot of respect for that, and he tries to do that famous internet line, how they say it: respect the respect the past, embrace the future. Embrace the future, kind of a nerddom kind of a line in communities whenever there's a franchise. Come on, man, embrace the past, respect the future, or something. It's like that when you want to think of sequels. But I think this film does
Nerds.
exactly that. Now, I mean, it doesn't do exactly. That's where the problem comes in, of atmosphere. For example, in the first film, I think what's very interesting, the overall kind of philosophical question for both films is: can a robot be human, and can humanity accept a robot as such? A robot. Now I came from
Robot.
Chicago.
Walking
Come on,
idiot.
Boston. Can a robot be accepted as a human? Which is a very interesting thing, because it's about, could we, like a sentient species, live with another sentient species? Because we are the only species living on Earth with that sense of reason and capacity for creating these wondrous things. And it's interesting to think about the question in cinema, because there's another franchise that does that, which is Planet of the Apes, which is a franchise I also like,
Oh God.
but kind of twists it around
Here
with
we got
another.
the apes fan.
We got the apes
Apes,
here.
man.
I'm particularly a fan of the later kind of modern films. I haven't watched the Charlton Heston
Yeah, me
film
neither. I
yet,
like the new
so
ones too.
maybe I'm betraying the true fans. but but that's interesting, because it pokes around the question of, could we live with another sentient species, not from the perspective of we are the gods who created the new species, but the species was always there. Now the apes are the smarter ones. Maybe there's our resented feelings of exploration there. But yeah, in this film in particular, so there's that overall philosophical question that lives in both films, and Villeneuve likes to play particularly with the idea of what is real, what are real emotions, what makes an emotional real, its source being a human, being a robot, what legitimates that emotion. But in the first film, the question is really connected with our antagonist, Roy, which is a beautiful, complex character played by Rutger Hauer, in how he plays him with his sense of irony and unpredictability. You never know what he's going to do next. And it's more ambiguous how you feel about him as well. You kind of appreciate his charisma, you appreciate his problem, which is the main problem, the focal point in the film, which is, why would God, us, the human species, create this other human or humanoid emotional consciousness capable of feeling, of remembering a life past, and yet a very short amount of time to live? It seems like a cruelty. It connects back to that question, why would God create life to then give it so many troubles, flaws, and then death? It seems like a cosmical joke. It connects back to that question. All the while, we have the question of the main protagonist. Is it okay to kill these robots if they are just like humans, if they were perfected to be just like us? And he has that, vulnerability, that question since the very beginning. In Blade Runner 2049, they don't rehash the question. They make a new one, they go deeper. They pick up from where we started. And the question becomes, can two replicants have a baby? And what does that mean for the species? And I think it harkens back also to the question of Deckard. Is he a replicant or is he not? Wonderfully enough, it doesn't really matter, because, I am from the side that he is obviously a replicant by the end, which Ridley says, and Harrison says, no, I think he's human, which would be what a replicant would say anyway, Harrison. So,
but it's obviously he's a replicant.
He's a replicant.
I think it's obvious.
Obvious.
Even in that scene with the eyes, it's becoming pretty clear.
And the thing is, even if we were to suppose that he isn't, it doesn't really destroy the premise of the film, of the second film, because if he is a replicant, then two replicants had a baby, and that is wondrous, that the species becomes independent. But if he is a human and a replicant had a baby, so it's even more extraordinary. The barrier of difference is completely broken. So I think the movie is very interesting, that central question that it makes. And as for the question of the protagonist, the dramatic question, it even shifts there. Ford's protagonist, more charismatic, was the question of, should I kill these replicants who actually feel very human to me? Are they humans? Are they not humans? And here, we know from the get-go he's a replicant. Okay, Ford is a replicant, but we only know that at the beginning. There's quite a shift in knowing that our main protagonist in the beginning of the film is in fact a replicant, which I think is interesting, because then we're always posing the question, are my feelings legitimate or not? Can I be human or not? You feel sad from him from the get-go.
That is revealed because it's not going to be important for the actual plot. There's something else, there's a bigger question in this film, and that part isn't relevant. It isn't the main premise of the film, whether or not he's a replicant or not. So it's a detail that that we can know immediately from the start. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. But I don't think that is he a replicant or not is not even a question in Ford's scenario. It becomes a question as you progress, because it's one of the questions in the film, but not the main one. And then in this one, I think the question becomes for the main protagonist an interesting one, connecting to this main one. Can two replicants have a baby, and what that means for the species? And the question for the protagonist is, are my feelings legitimate? And furthermore, are my memories real? Can I be the Messiah? Am I Jesus? Basically, that's what he's asking. And it's very poignant that, because we are introduced to this character with this idea, he might be Jesus, and you immediately connect with the protagonist. It harkens back to that feeling that we all have as humans, which is, am I a special little snowflake? which is interesting, because it completely defeats the existentialism of Sartre, which is like, you gain meaning in your life and purpose because you build meaning. You build your kind of sense of purpose in life. It's not attributed to you, but deep down, we all want to be Harry Potter. We all want to be Jesus. We all want to be the chosen one. So the film does play with that sense that we all humans have, because it's lazy. You are born to life with this sense of purpose that, yes, my son, you are going to save us all. And that's wondrous. You can do stuff, you in the sense of attention. But the thing is, the film doesn't feed off that idea, because of course, for the sense of drama, someone else who had it harder in life, we're going to find out who she is the actual Messiah, and so he isn't. And so we go back to the existentialist question. But Kay, you did brought meaning to your life because you had that vulnerability in you of finding the replicants to be as deserving of having real human emotions as humans. He finds that within himself, and the purpose of bringing the mission home and bringing Deckard together with his daughter, I think gains meaning to his life, even when he's there dying at the end in the snow, which has a beautiful, the falling snow or the falling rain gains a beautiful kind of poetic meaning in this film, which started with joy, which is kind of the emotional hook we have with Gosling. Despite Gosling being someone who plays him has a very deadpan replicant cold demeanor, I think what hooks us to him as an audience is joy, is the fact that this robot, what is with me today? I was saying robot, this robot, this
I'm walking
replicant,
robot.
Robert the
this
robot.
replicant needs another. I'm becoming French. That's what's happening. This replicant, this robot. I'm becoming Dennis. This robot needs another robot. This replicant needs another replicant to feel his emotions like tangible. And I think this poetry, what falls from the sky, making you feel human, this tangibility, this sensation, really starts with that joy scene that even a hologram, which is faker than the fake, faker than the replicant, even a hologram can be real, can feel human emotions. I find the character of Joy amazing in this film. It has another layer that I really want to talk about later. I won't go into deeper here. But just to say that scene in the rain, with her touching the rain, really allows you to think, like, if you already consider in your hearts of heart that the replicants in this film, even from the history that you have from the first film, are capable of feeling human emotions, and we yearn for these replicants to be considered as much of humans as the real humans, because it's so unfair the way they are treated, being called skinners. I mean, in the consciousness of the viewer and of the replicants of themselves, they kind of have a prejudice against Joy. There's a scene of the prostitute with Joy where she says, "I've seen inside of you, there's not much there." And I thought, oh, that's such a beautiful thing, because even the replicants have a prejudice against this sub-life form. But she shows herself to have some kind of emotion there, this poignancy. And we as an audience, we take Joy for granted. She's a product. There's a beautiful scene where, I'm already going into Joy, but essentially there's a beautiful scene where we have this sex scene, this love scene between Ryan Gosling and Joy. And she enters in the body of this prostitute. This whole beautiful visual scene is conjured of the duplicating of their bodies, of the prostitute with Joy. It's trying to sync with her. And then after that scene, that love scene, we cut to Joy in this huge giant hologram in the middle of the street. And it's our first kind of moment of realizing that she is a product available to the masses. And it's like, wow, so he's always playing with this sense of what is real, where does real emotion come from? But we do feel this contrast between Joy being a product, a robot, something unreal, but at the same time, he very much shows to be sentient, to be sensitive, to want to be with Kay. And at least we want to believe that, but will we ever really believe it? And I think it's beautiful, that first scene in the rain, where the touching of the skin really becomes a metaphor for the becoming human, the emotion becoming legitimate. And that harkens back to the ending when he feels the snow. And the music harkening back to the first film, when Roy's dying, is the same when, Kay is dying. I think it's amazing. So yeah, just start off the ball with that. I think this movie is rich with ideas in every other scene, which is not does not come around often. If you see a Marvel movie or whatever, this blockbuster, even James Bond, they will not present this consistency of scenes that keep unveiling itself with ideas. The Joy scene, this film is full of scenes that bring to it personality, that make it different from the first Blade Runner movie. I'll talk about the negative things about this Blade Runner that it has to me, that don't make or break it, but weaken the film for me a bit. But what do you think about all these things? Joy has a character, the central question.
So about what you said, plenty of stuff. For example, in the scene where she's in the rain, I do really enjoy that scene as well, and I do agree that it gives this sort of sense of she's becoming human. But a really interesting thing to counter that with is the fact that then she stopped, and because it's receiving
Yeah,
a call, and it kind of makes you sort of clash with this idea that at the end, this is all just a program anyway, that
yeah.
you're always questioning whether these things are becoming
The
human,
product meets
and
the human. Yeah.
yes, you're always questioning to what extent they're becoming human, but then always clashes with the fact that these things are programs nonetheless. And yeah, that's I think really the one of the key things about this film and the original as well. You know, to what extent are these things always just a program anyway, and it doesn't really mean anything. But then, I mean, at the same time, you were talking about the fact, just plot, I guess, more plot related, about the fact that these things, these replicants can have children. But I mean, how? How are these things having children exactly? Because I think if it was a little clearer exactly the science behind it, I think it would make for less of a mystery. I mean, because I mean, if we just assume that the females have wombs, where does the difficulty come in having
What do you mean?
children? I mean, in the sense that it's not really explained the
I disagree
what
completely.
makes that person special in having had the ability to have children, you know. I mean, you don't really understand what they were trying to get from from the child in order to do replicants that can be mothers and fathers, you know. You don't really understand what's special about the child.
You don't understand what's special about the meaning of them being able to breathe?
No, no, no. It's not that.
Oh,
I understand the meaning, obviously, of
okay.
suddenly being able to have children, but you don't understand
The science.
physiologically.
But okay,
Yes,
I don't think me personally I don't need to understand it.
no, but that's kind of the main thing because I mean, okay, because if you don't question that, you also shouldn't question anything about the story itself and the original because it's just making
The thing
humans.
is, no, the thing
So
is,
what's different about this human that suddenly makes the difference for the every other human that can potentially be, you know, created? I mean,
no,
it's
no, I don't
just
think the story needs necessarily to go. I think that space to imagine what it could mean is part of. To not leave an answer to that is interesting to me. To leave it mysterious is interesting to me. I can respond to the fact of how was this possible of her, the child of Rachel and Deckard even exist and there being a baby. To the fact that to the interesting fact, one of the things that Villeneuve responds in this film and adds in this film goes deeper into the idea is Wallace as a character. We can expect to him. What is so interesting is that he's a kind of Tyrell 2.0, but he's presented to us with no eyes, blind, a bit like poetically, like Tyrell ends. He ends up with no eyes, and here he's completely, naked of that humanity. The eye is a great icon and symbol of Blade Runner as a franchise and film. Kind of the hinge to the soul, the key to humanity, the way they are identified anyway through this test that is the Vaunt cat and kind of its evolutions of the test. And so here Wallace, I think, doesn't is colder. He doesn't realize. He eliminates redundancy whenever he creates a replicant. He doesn't really. I don't think he experiments as much as Tyrell did. And I think one of the key things about Tyrell as a character is that he allowed himself to feed off his he dreams and indulge himself in experiments. Like the character said, Rachel was an experiment, and he likes to have that openness. I think Rachel was the key, new replicant that was kind of built underground, that was kept under wraps, and somehow this experiment happened with Deckard, and this baby was born. Every other replicant from there on, since there was that chaos with these replicants, rebels that fled from Mars and came down to Earth in the first movie, they decided to do it differently. I think the replicants became, it's not Nexus 6, it's Nexus 9. I think Wallace's replicants have lost something. I think the capability of breathing, of birth, is very kind of unique to what happened to Rachel and Deckard. So
no, no,
that
I
explains that part
understand.
of the situation. But I don't need to understand how do they give birth. What's more, you know, biology
Because
of it.
for me, I just go there because to try and make a little more sense out of Wallace's plans. Because otherwise, it just seems like a generic villain, you know.
I don't think.
I mean, as we said, Rutger Hauer in the original is so iconic because
No. Oh
you
yeah.
kind of you understand exactly what he's going through, and Wallace just has sort of a a
That
generic
is one thing
plan.
that I agree. Like, I think the villain in the first one is amazing, full of complexity, and this one is more your plain villain
Yeah, he's out
with an
for
agenda. But I understand
yeah.
his agenda. He wants for his children to be able to breathe and to have slaves, basically. And the difference here is that the resistance, the replicants want to be able to breathe, to be free. They have different slants, different perspectives of what the meaning of this capability to give birth means. One is to be slaves, the other is to be free. It's just a slight difference of perception. Where I do have a problem with is more with the resistance, in the sense that, because I have a similar question along those lines. For example, what I don't understand is the resistance when they catch Kay, and to do that whole spiel of getting him inside that cave and trying to get to him and explaining, you are going to lead us to the liberation. And I'm like, okay, resistance fellas, I have one question. I will be that one guy who will be like, I have one question for you. I've been here
Hey,
for a
hey,
long
hey.
time. Yeah, exactly. Hey, I
One
have one
question.
question. Why the heck did you keep this child a secret for years? Because if you kept it for years a secret, what would you expect that would happen? When would you expect to reveal it to the world? Huh? And
No, 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 no,
what
no,
would you
no, no,
expect that
no,
would
no, no,
happen?
no.
That
You
is
get
my
it
question.
all wrong.
No,
Got
no,
it all wrong.
they kept it a
Because
secret for years.
the point is not that she's revealing to the world, is that she's being revealed slowly to every replicant because every replicant has the idea that they're the Messiah. I think that's the point.
Oh,
Revealed
I
slowly
didn't.
to every rep. Did you
Yes,
read that?
yes. That's the what the reveal is, that everyone thinks they're Ryan Gosling at some point, that they all think that they're the children that
She does say that. Yeah, that's true.
Okay, I didn't read it that way, but I can see it that way, I guess.
because it's
It's not
it's
there.
the idea
Okay,
that
fine.
every person there was at some point at some
I
point thought that they were
guess.
the
I mean,
children of
the thing
Deckard
with
and
Ryan is that
Rachel.
he does share the memories of
But
the Messiah.
everyone has that memory because she's the one planting
You
them
think
there.
that's the case?
Because she's the one planting them there.
But I don't
She's
know
putting
if.
her own memory in every
I
replicant.
mean, that is a theory. That's a fan. It's not there in the movie.
What? I think
No,
it's
it's
obvious.
not. No, it's not. I mean, did you feel that level? I
I
mean,
don't
I
think
didn't.
it's. I don't. I didn't
I'm
feel
not
it in
saying
the
that it's
movie either.
impossible. Like
But I
it
do think
fits.
it makes sense. Yeah,
It makes
because
sense. Like I didn't read,
like
but it makes
why
sense.
would Ryan Gosling be the chosen one to have? Because then he is a chosen one in the sense that he did, like, she did put those memories there. But I
Yeah.
don't know if that's the case, because like what happened, what they
because
did
it
was create
helps.
two people with the exact same DNA to create like a, a diversion. I'm not sure. So there's a boy and a girl that have the exact same DNA that he finds out, and that's part of their plan to burn the records essentially, so that she's untraceable, because there's two humans that that are mixed up. So I
Yeah, but
don't know
I
if that
think
was
I
part of the
don't.
plan, putting the memories in him specifically because he's the copy, or if everyone also, other replicants also have these memories or not. I'm not sure.
I'm not even sure there are two children. I think that's also something that they make up so that the person thinks that they're the missing child. I'm not sure. I think that's also created, but
But
I am
what in the
sure
film
that
tells you that that's created? Nothing in the film
it's that
tells you.
sequence
I
where
think you can
she's telling
imagine
that
that.
it's
Hmm.
that sequence where we cut to the image of her. It's like a flashback to her looking at the memory and saying this happened to someone,
Right.
and you get a sense that it's her and that she's the child and it happened to her. And since she's the memory maker, I mean, at least I thought, okay, she's putting that memory which is real in all these
But
replicants.
you never do that. The same memory. I mean, I at least have the sense that, for example, like in the first movie,
Yes, because
you have
it's an
Rachel have
implant.
a set of memories and you have Deckard have a set of memories. No same person has the same set of memories. Otherwise, it would. I don't know.
No, but even talk
It would
about the
make him
fact that it's
unreal.
an implant, that these are memories that are sort of standard.
No, but the moment you have more than one person having the same memories of an experience that should be unique to you, it defeats the purpose of them feeling real because they now
I
feel
mean,
fake. They are a product implanted in everyone.
I don't think it's necessarily the same, but at least in the details that allow them to search for more meaning and go on that journey, like the date, like the birth date.
That's a lot of imagining. That's a lot of theorying. I
I mean,
don't
but
know.
she's
I
clearly
think
like a memory maker,
the
putting
same
memories
exact
in
memory.
replicants,
But
and I
like,
think
what
that
makes
that
her
is an important
what
point.
makes her good supposedly is that she's very good at creating
Different.
new memories, different
Yeah.
memories for each individual. I think
I don't see.
that's
Yeah.
what is strange about him having these same memories as her, because it's
But
her memory.
I think it's pretty clear that he learns that he isn't important
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
he goes on
That's
this
true.
redeeming
That's true.
arc
Obviously, yeah.
at the end about just sort of doing something selfless. And I
Yes.
think
Yes.
that really, for me, that helped make the point that in not being important, he isn't the child of anyone.
Yeah.
He's
Of course.
just
Yeah. But
someone.
I agree with that, and I don't agree with the fact that all the other replicants have the same memory. That's the only thing I'm refuting.
I mean, maybe not necessarily the same memory, but are led to go on this journey of thinking that they're the child because they're being given this importance to help the replicants become free in a sense. Especially because that blind lady does that speech and then everyone
Yeah.
else appears
Yeah.
behind her, and this kind of sense gives a sense of presentation, like here we are, we have all come here as well, and you are the next, you're just the next one in this line. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I
I
see
got that
that.
sense.
I mean,
I
between
didn't
the
feel
film
that,
planned
but
this,
I get
or
it.
was this a plot hole of the film? I think I don't know.
It's
No,
not
I
a plot
mean,
hole,
for
it's a
me, it's
detail.
yeah, for me, it ends up being an interesting point of the film, not really plot hole.
No, it's a
Yeah.
For me,
plot hole in
that
the sense I still have difficulties believing that they have the same memory or the same memory only altered in details. Like it's not there in the film. It's not there. The fact it's not there. It's possible. It has a potential, but it's not clearly there. I don't know if
I think you're focusing too much on the same memory. I think what
right.
maybe I'm wrong, but what Miguel is more suggesting is that all of these replicants that are there in the room all at some point thought that they were special for some reason. They had the same, like, they had to go through the same arc of realizing that they were not the chosen one, but that they served some purpose in developing this rebellion, in that the chosen one will eventually come or whatever. Again, I can see, because of the way the scene is presented, I see what Miguel is saying. The speech she gives, she says something along those lines very
Sure, fair enough. Well, like I
directly,
said, seems to make sense.
but I didn't feel it as either.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the memory thing is specific. I'm not sure if that's what the film is suggesting or not. That they all have that memory or not. I'm not sure.
maybe not literally the exact one, but enough to lead them on this
Yeah,
sort of
yeah, because like
journey somehow.
she probably has other memories. Maybe each one of them gets one special memory from her, and they all go on this journey with
Yes,
some
it's true.
fucking
She even
MacGuffin.
suggests that one of the memories it's this sort of birthday that she's then designing with the girls blowing the candles, and it's another way to suggest the birthday of the person. So I don't know. I guess it's just all details that lead to the fact that she's trying to make everyone realize that perhaps they were born at a certain date, and that means that there's someone
Mhm.
else. But at the same time, I also see it as she's doing that just because she's very lonely and she's putting herself in the memories, and she can't help it but put real memories and not fake ones. And maybe there's no more meaning other than that. That it's just
Yeah,
putting real memories, and that's leading the replicants on journeys that she didn't intend for. Which I think is also an interesting thing because at the end she's just an isolated orphan that wants to have real memories, and that's why I also really like the ending because with specifically not so much the death of Ryan Gosling but Deckard approaching her daughter. It's one of the more emotional moments of the film.
I think that one of the coming back to what makes this film unique or have a personality that is detached from the first one as well. On the positive of having this different personality of gaining its stance for Denis Villeneuve has this is my mark on Blade Runner world is, for example, responding to expanding on these questions of what is this thing of making memories? Who makes the memories? You know, he actually shows how they are produced, which is interesting, and he gives us a replacement to Kay being the possibility of the Messiah that is satisfying, because even when he isn't, and we really want him to be, though we know in our our deepest selves that that shouldn't happen for dramatic purposes, it's that present, that gift is given to something that he really deserves it, because the actress plays it with such sensitivity, and as well as her character, she was robbed of the experience of life because of that disease, whether the disease is planned or not, to be in that sort of incubator prison where she
No,
works.
no, no. The disease
What?
is because she's a daughter of two replicants. She's frail,
She's
I
frail.
think.
I think that's her imaginings. There's nothing
No,
there that
she's
says
clearly
what?
no, but this
What?
point is
There's
absolute.
nothing
She's
there that
clearly the
says
daughter,
that.
but she's clearly the daughter of Deckard and Rachel, yes?
That's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
But
Okay,
where does
so
it say that that she has
so you
frailties because she's the daughter of
no,
refugees?
but you
use
imagine
logic.
that
You can just
you
imagine.
you imagine that
Or
the strange daughter of two
or she
replicants
caught
might
the
have
disease at the orphanage. You don't know.
come on, no, she's
That
frail because
orphanage.
she's a weird
What?
kid. She's a weird replicant
What?
kid.
I mean, I do think that's the most like that makes perfect sense. You
I
know,
mean, it makes
if there's a
sense. I
reason,
can
it's that
understand it,
one
but
more than
I don't
she
see.
caught it at the orphanage. Yeah, an
Yeah, I mean,
immunocompromised thing.
what's the? I mean, what I mean, I understand it makes sense, but I don't see it has the one and only
She's a
direct
genetic
response.
freak.
You know,
It's not
She's a
answered.
genetic
it
freak.
doesn't
Mash.
need to be that alone. I mean, I don't mind if it's that. Fine if it's that. I'm okay. I don't think that it's that fixed. Oh, it is because she's a daughter that she has this frailty.
I mean, you would
Maybe.
imagine that a daughter of two replicants being such a miracle and genetic anomaly that she would have some sort of
Yeah, it's plausible.
Yeah,
health
I
problems.
didn't. Bro.
Because in a sense, it's like any other genetic anomaly in normal humans. I mean, she would have frail health, I think.
Fair
So
enough.
it makes sense, I think.
But yeah, I think that yeah, it's very interesting of a replacement, and you know, it's very poetic that she's robbed of her life to then being producing memories, some of them real, some of them fake, and even when fake, she puts something of her inside them for other people. Is this very selfless thing, you know? And she's isolated in this other world, never gets to go outside, and she makes these presents for people who are not people, are replicants. You know, they are yearning for some kind of life that has energy and feelings and memory and are allowed to live with rights but can't, you know, because they live in this kind of over-exploitative capitalist society that oppresses them. I think that's very interesting. Other moment that is interesting that was in potential in the first film is the idea of slavery. You know, we actually see slavery in the film of children, child slavery in this orphanage that actually makes them work on stuff. And Leslie James, I think, is the British actor who plays kind of the director. He's very interesting of a character, much like in the first film. Although the first film has a difference in acting, you find a lot of beautiful performances in this film from the actress who plays Love, from to Jared Leto, who is the more campy one out of them all, and to Kate, and this one who's presenting, you know, Kate is all these children in a very fatherly kind of figure who is promising that yes, I do have a kind of relationship with them, and they're all my children, they're all very lovely, etc. They work, discipline is good. But then the second he shows his badge, he's like, oh man, I don't want to have nothing to do with you. He looks to the side. It's so you feel like the actor went out of his way to kind of figure out how do these like street hustlers, wise guys behave. You know, you see him in his little office trying to figure this out. Oh yeah, the cocaine man, no man, kind of looking to the side, and he's looking to the side. He doesn't look at Kay, and he's giving answers. I think that detail is very interesting, kind of his nervousness. And then it's interesting that from the point of view of slavery being shown, you don't quite know if these children are like actual humans or just replicants. Are they all replicants? A mixture of both? That doesn't matter because slavery is bad anyway. I think for them to leave that end of the question elusive and not to respond who these children are makes it very poignant. Like I said, keeps on going to that effect that the film reveals itself in every other scene with new ideas that give it personality, like the joy in the rain or the joy with the love scene, and this one very interesting.
I think that may be sometimes a problem. It has too many ideas, and it gets away in the plot.
Disagree. Absolutely.
No, I don't agree
I think
with
he
it.
balances very well.
Miguel just throwing. Well, let's see if it sticks.
No, I mean,
okay, this one doesn't work. I'll catch you.
No,
then.
it's not the ideas. No, but honestly, I don't think it's the ideas. I think it's just somehow the plot sometimes
I do
It's
think
too.
it's more
It
plotty.
needs
The
too much to
plot.
go in certain
Yeah,
directions.
I agree.
Like Deckard suddenly needs to take, not Deckard. Wallace suddenly needs to take Deckard to off world so that it can be ambushed, and then suddenly, okay, let's not go back. Let's not go there. Let's go back, and then the thing sinks into the water. There are moments where it doesn't feel like real decisions. Like it just feels like we need to go this place so that these actions can take place. And
That I
this is
understand. For
where I feel
example,
like the film could be a little better.
So
I
maybe
More
feel
it's the
like
other
focused,
way
more,
around.
yeah, more
It's the plot
plot.
that gets in the way of the ideas.
Yeah, it really
that
is.
that
In
question
certain
of
moments, be a
sometimes the
little more
plot gets in the way
concise.
of the ideas. I understand that. I think it's far more of a plotty film than the first one is. It's far more simple in its premise. This one is trying to expand things into the way of an epic with a final purpose, meaning like if there's a grandeur. You can even imagine the follow-up film that if there isn't a third installment, is going to be the ultimate revolution. It's going to be even more epic. They're going to go on and on into this thing that becomes bigger than where it actually started. But for example, Kay being left behind and suddenly the resistance being there in Las Vegas, very conveniently so, or those decision-making things at the end getting him off road. I understand those aspects sometimes gets in the way. For example, one of the things that I think weakens the film for me, it doesn't break it, but it weakens, is the fact that the first film was very strong in its atmosphere, like the amount of lights, the way it opens, the way it's shot, the whole city, this metropolis, who takes really influence from the film Metropolis, and blending kind of a style of architecture from the 30s, Art Deco and so on. It's rich in texture, in the smoke and the night and the amount of lights. You see this capitalist world that is so overwhelming in this cross culture of the Asian and the Arabic and the Western, and it's overpopulated, overlit. Like normally the noirs of old are very connected to the ideas of light and shadow. Here it's colors and it's so lit that is overwhelming. The lighting contributes to this oppression, these giant buildings. And you have these sweeping shots that go through the city, these pans, and you see from different angles. You see the buildings from the ground with a low angle. You see from above, and there's so many details to the architecture that you can't pin your finger on it. The apartment of Deckard's is clearly taking influence from Frank Lloyd Wright's apartment that is in LA that he built for some rich schmo. I don't no longer know, but it has a very interesting pattern. In this film, though 30 years have passed, this is one of the things I have against the film, is that it is just a grayish mesh. It's just like, I understand that, there has been a blackout phenomena in the 2020s and that is darkened. So we don't have the same lit, overwhelmed quality to the first one. And I respect that. He's trying to search, how can my film be different and yet harken back to the first one? So the aspect of being darker, that's okay. And yet that doesn't mean that the buildings need to be different. A city may have 30 years, 40 years, you still recognize the same architecture. You go around my town, you still see buildings from the 70s or even early back. And that's part of the beauty of it. I don't see the same buildings here. In fact, it's too neat, it's too clean, it's not dirty. Part of the beauty why the first film is so beautiful is that the atmosphere is so tangible. Like Ridley Scott said, I had the studio lot. It was a heck of a headache because I couldn't shoot it in the day. It needed to be night. So I had 3 tools to myself: smoke, night, and rain. So nobody could understand I was a studio, and they all wear masks. The crew wear masks to not get the fog because they were always filling it up with smoke. And they filmed in a real freezer, like that freezer thing with the Asian dude that makes the ice. It's like real freezing cold, and the machinery inside was going to kill them because it was produced more carbon dioxide than oxygen. So it's very interesting to know those tidbits. But yeah, it's full of detail and richness and texture, and it's dirty and you don't want to be there. You're both fascinated and kind of repelled by it. It's overpopulated. You are on the ground level in the streets, these bars, these Arab chantings that you hear in the background. This other film, Blade Runner 2049, does not have that. It has a lot of echoing and similarities, kind of fan service with the Enjoy Coca-Cola and the Pan Am ads on the buildings, the holograms. but you can barely see the city. And when you have these traveling shots that feel like these ghost shots traveling inside the city, as if these glider cars going through the city, they feel like transitions. They don't feel like events. When you saw the opening of the original Blade Runner, it was an event. It was a thing. Those shots, those buildings, from all sorts of angles. In this one, it feels like it just feels like get done with it. I don't. You know, this is
I
not
don't
the
know,
same
completely
city.
agree. I think we're just too used to films by now of this scale to not be as easily impressed as maybe.
No,
But
the
I
thing,
do
it
think that
needed
it,
to
it
harken back to the same. This feels like a different film.
but it is a different film. I mean,
No, the thing is, it's good to be a different film. All the positive aspects that I've mentioned before contribute to it being a film with its own personality. But if it wants to be a film within the continuity of Blade Runner, I think it fails a bit at it. You know,
but I
it's so
mean,
concerned with plot that it doesn't
it
build the
doesn't need to
atmosphere
be
of the
set in
town.
the exact same cities with the exact same dirtiness and filth. And I mean, we can be in other places within this
Wait a minute.
universe
No.
and within this
Los
place.
Angeles. This is Los Angeles of 2019. In 2049,
Okay,
it could. I'm
but
not
20
saying
years
that you
have
can't
passed, so
have.
things might be a
No,
little
no,
different.
no. That's not the thing. Okay, there's a balance. There can be modern buildings. There can be different things, and I really embrace that. You know, Villeneuve really likes like brutalism and minimalist kind of architecture, more post-war, while this one is more pre-war, World War II influenced in the original film. But for me, it needed to have a blend of the new buildings with the old architecture. I grew on the ground level with Kay on that marketplace area eating. I'm not as impressed. You know, it doesn't feel like the same film. I'm sorry. To me, it needed to be.
I mean, I
I
don't
needed that
think the
connection.
difference is that jarring that you would say it's a different atmosphere altogether. I mean, you may be less impressed, sure, okay, or maybe don't enjoy the aesthetics as much, but I wouldn't go so far as saying it doesn't feel like the same place and the same mood
To
and
me, it could
universe.
be any other dystopian film. Like it could be any other. It doesn't
No.
necessarily need to be Blade Runner. It only is Blade Runner because sometimes I see the Enjoy Coca-Cola and the Pan Am things.
No, I mean, come
Uh,
on. You see a lot of the same sort of buildings, and you go
no,
to
really,
this. Even just the camera work
I don't think so.
resembles
I just
the establishing
agree to
shots that you saw
disagree.
in the beginning.
Mm-mm. I really don't feel it. I really don't feel it. You know, it feels it's like a I don't know what how should I put this? To me, it feels like an imitation. It's not. I don't know.
But I mean, you can't expect a different director to. How could Villeneuve not
He
have his
could.
own style in some extent and
No,
end
he
up
can have
doing
his own
a different
style
film?
while
Yeah, but
respecting.
you're saying you can't because you had to make the exact same thing and it
No, a
couldn't make that.
blend. You see, it's a blend. It's the architecture is just not there at all from the first movie, and there are things that don't change from the first movie to. And there are things that don't change just in 30 years for a town, and I really need to see that connective tissue. And then there are things that do change, and I really respect that, and I like that because if it was the same, it wouldn't be interesting. I totally agree. It's just that to me, it's just not fully there, um, and it's a big part why the first film is interesting to me.
I was
What
gonna
do you
talk
think?
about something I very much dislike about the
Okay.
film, not in its complete entireness, because there are good moments, but Hans Zimmer, my man, I don't think this is a good
Your
score.
best work, okay.
Not even close. It's just it's like a joke of a blockbuster like score. It's like a parody. It's so over the top. There's moments where I'm enjoying the mood of the image, the way it's lit, like the colors and the fogginess, and then just these like futuristic sounds supposedly. Like I don't think it works most of the
I like
time.
Vangelis more, the
Yeah, it's
original
way
film.
better. It's much more consistent.
Subtler.
It contributes to
But
the mood.
Vangelis score Vangelis's score is kind of different also because it's
Yeah.
It is.
much more it's much lighter
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
sort of
agree.
it goes in the camper direction of being sort of light and fun almost. And here, and Zimmer clearly goes like, no, this is a dark place,
Yeah.
and this
Yeah.
is not camp. This is some serious ass bullshit
Yeah.
happening.
I
Serious
really
ass bullshit.
don't. That's what I really don't like that approach. I don't know. Maybe it's like I miss that from the original Blade Runner as well. I like the
I'm gonna be honest.
score.
I didn't dislike Zimmer's score. I do think that sometimes in the middle of the music, it goes kind of in weird directions, which becomes really jarring, and you kind of you become too focused on the music. You kind of become aware that it's there too much. And yeah, those moments I dislike, but generally I don't. I wouldn't say it's bad.
Yeah, I
That's me.
would.
God damn it, Mike is difficult today. He doesn't want us to yield.
No, but
I don't know.
Needs to be retired.
I don't mind
It's
it that
bad
much.
not in the like. I'm sure it took a lot of work to make these sounds. Like the sounds by themselves and the music.
Tell
like,
him
is
that.
impressive. Like that is
I'm sure
impressive.
it took you a lot of work,
It
Hans.
should
you
it
know.
look. I don't think it contributes. I think because a lot of times it works against the scene for me. It's what you're saying. Like now I'm thinking of the music. Not only am I thinking of it, I'm thinking I don't like it. So that's not good. Whereas like I think with the original Blade Runner, I also thought of the music sometimes because there's like those very 80s type of 80s sonority, that type of sound.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think it contributes to the film because it's a future, but you recognize the current context that the film was made in. I think it works. Whereas this one, it's bland. I think it's not even that it's super terrible. It's another blockbuster type of soundtrack that we've seen so many times, especially from Zimmer.
The description you're giving to the music, that's what I felt with
The architecture.
the costume design and production design. Like, good enough. I get it. It echoes the similarity to the previous Blade Runner, but there's such a richness of texture in the first one. He goes into a phone booth to have a video call, which is amazing for the time, with Rachel in a bar, and the thing is filled with letters on the screen, Chinese. You can feel the dirt in it. It's amazing. I mean, I mean, every shot I'm looking at it, I'm like, the level of detail they got into making this stuff, these little things, the phone. I mean, it's amazing. It's riveting. I mean, in this one, I just feel it bland. I'm not to say that it isn't professional and pretty. It is beautiful cinematography and all that, but when you are, it's inevitable to compare yourself to the first film, and Villeneuve is very aware of the legacy of the first, so that's why he wants to imprint his personality and somehow harken to the first with a lot of echoes. But I think in what was important of atmosphere, production design, costume design, he missed it. Also in the question of campness, what I really liked about the first film is that there's a lot of camp in the performances, starting with Roy Batty, which Rutger Hauer plays beautifully. And I think Mike made a beautiful example of the final scene after the scene after he kills Tyrell. But also you have G.F. Sebastian and Pris, the replicant, even Harrison Ford at times. Hey, time to die. And he kills. There's a campness to the film that just makes it offbeat at times, and it's all to do with this weird world that today you wouldn't have these camp performances. G.F. Sebastian says things in a weird way. The whole encounter with Pris at first, like, people don't interact like this. This is kind of strange. It's the kind of like those kind of offbeat laughs that would happen in earlier films. Like they're having these awkward kind of laughs together, GF and her, that I think it's kind of a weird interaction. And then Tyrell himself is a very weird kind of character. More human than human, that's our motto. The movie is filmed with kind of these weird performances. Yeah, this is very interesting. Even Roy Batty is just a wonderful character. From Rutger Hauer.
You're not gonna top that. That's one of the best performances.
He has an antagonist with a beautiful, complex problem, and in himself, the way he plays him, you can't predict what he's gonna do next. That scene with the eye doctor who makes the eyes, I think maybe we all will agree that it is a very interesting scene, because the way he laughs, like, if you only had seen what I've seen with your eyes, it's amazing. With smiles, great. It's like, you can't predict it.
Yeah.
Time enough. And he does laugh. I don't know why he does it. Very strange. In a way that doesn't exist, in the sequel. The sequel is very plot heavy and needs to find this kind of overall meaning and make a whole mythical journey for the hero, which in this one it's just a lot more simpler. In this one, I mean the 2019 Blade Runner, it's much more laid back. 2019 in the sense of the narrative
That
period.
is so confusing. Why would you refer to it as that?
I was saying because it's Blade Runner 2049 and I'm saying Blade Runner 2019. And Leo was like very convincing. Yep. Yeah. I'm sorry, what?
It's like, what? Right.
No, the 1982 Blade Runner that portrays the 2019 reality.
Right.
That was
just like simple, the Ridley Scott
clear.
One.
Ridley Scott Blade Runner.
So
I think the end fight sequence is amazing. There's a lot of room to breathe for just the poetics of it. The dove thing seems so indulgent but so beautiful at the same time. It just feels like a dove was there on set and like, can I pick it up? Yeah, sure. Can I put this in the scene? Yeah, sure. Let's do it. So yeah, Blade Runner. Did you know the original before seeing the sequel?
I knew it. I think I watched it as well before I watched.
But
I
never
remember.
Never at the cinema.
What, Blade Runner? The original? No, obviously.
No, of course.
The sequel not either. I watched it like
maybe
a bit after.
Cinematech.
I mean, yeah, that's true. Probably.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
that could have happened. You did?
No.
Miguel? No, you didn't. Oh, that would be cool, actually. I would have liked to see it at the Cinematech.
If it ever goes there, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Cinematech always has a lot of great films.
True surprises.
Yeah. I mean, I still follow them on Instagram to depress myself. Because I see like, pops up, incredible film that we're showing. I'm like, oh, okay, great. I would like to see it.
Yeah. I mean, I actually don't follow them on Instagram. How are they like? Because, sometimes
they just put like what films they're showing every day.
Oh, okay.
Like posts.
Right.
Like when Friedkin died, not too long after, they were doing like a little retrospective. And yeah, there's always great stuff.
But you know what I think they're missing, and we can discuss this in the nominees podcast episode for the festival we were just in. And nominated for best film podcast ever. In Portugal. Brackets. But we discussed the fact that it would be interesting if Cinematech had some kind of personality that, like Mark Kermode or Martin Scorsese, that kind of divulged these earlier films. I think it would be interesting to have in their Instagram this kind of reels where one person would be the representative and he would become this kind of personality, repeated one that would introduce us to new films and whatnot. Of Portuguese cinema, I think there's that lack of accessibility.
There was a bit of a vacuum in that regard. I mean, Instagram specifically, no, but I mean, since João Bernard da Costa died, which I think was early 2010s, I don't remember.
Yeah,
but he used to be that figure of the personality. Like a lot of people thought of him as the Cinemateca guy, and I don't think there's the equivalent anymore. Anyone like that. Which would be cool if they could find someone like that has that
maybe that
type
one is
of
us.
Pool.
Maybe that one is us. I think it would be interesting to do like a segment of.
I don't want to have that responsibility.
That's a lot of responsibility, and it needs to be an older person. I also do think.
Yes,
it doesn't need, but it helps because of the knowledge of over the years.
Put yourself in a suit, some gray hair, and it should be off to go.
Easy.
But
it would be cool if they did stuff with us. I would love to do that, of course.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to invite me over and do a selection of films that I want to see.
Maybe there's something there. Tomás is twirling his mustache. Twice. Any last thoughts on Blade Runner?
I don't think so.
Okay. All good.
But I'm excited for Dune 2.
Yeah, I'm excited for Dune 2.
Yes. Even though
I like Dune.
I could have liked Dune better.
I think I excuse a lot
Miguel
of it
has
because
an
I know
agenda
there's
against Timothée Chalamet. I don't think he likes him very much as an actor.
No, he's not very good. I don't think so. Not very versatile, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's if he was the right choice for that role, but I like him in most things I've seen him in. But I do think
I
he
get
does
what
do that
Miguel
type
is
of
also
character,
saying.
like the
He's a bit-
Greta Gerwig
He's the brooding
characters. He's better in that than
He's a brooding
Yeah.
teenager or something.
yeah, exactly.
He's always like,
But he's no longer a teenager.
Best with the
That's
salt.
that reality. I have to rewatch it, to be honest. My first impressions at the time were good, but I thought it could have. I thought I was going to be more impressed.
Mhm.
But yes, I do think I'll rewatch it before the second one,
Yeah, me too, for sure. I think my problems are
and
more.
then evaluate it better.
Yeah, I think my problems are more in line with the fact that it feels incomplete. But I mean, I
It's a part
excuse that
one.
because it is a part one, so I don't. It doesn't
Yeah.
bother me that much, and I'm more or less aware of Dune and what happens in the story. So I'm like, I want to see it happen. I want to see how he develops it because it's very
And we have
interesting.
Austin Butler going crazy. Going
That's
crazy
gonna
at
be
it in
cool.
the sequel. We have Lee Seydoux, which is
That's
interesting.
always good. Yeah.
Who else is in it? Well, of course, Skarsgård has Baron Harkonnen is amazing. I really like every time he's on. But Arrakis is Arrakis, my Dune. And he elevates himself. What does he say? But sir, you promised the witch. You gave your word to the witch. And he says that thing which is but Arrakis is Arrakis, and the desert takes the meek, my Arrakis. My Dune. And I'm like, oh my god, amazing. And I want to see him. Yeah. So he's always hypes me up every time he's on screen.
Like, if the studios weren't greedy and hadn't stalled the fucking deals with the writers and the actors, we could have now been discussing Dune 2.
Yeah.
Now we gotta wait until March.
That's it.
We have to settle for Napoleon.
Napoleon, I will be there.
I don't think that Ridley Scott of today does as much interesting things as he used to, in my mind.
I haven't watched much of what he has done.
I think it
Sometimes
has had
it
a
surprises
similar
me.
path to Spielberg. I think very sci-fi-ish in the beginning,
Fair enough.
and now gone sort of
Political realm.
drama and more sort of grounded stuff.
The other day, there was a film on TV on Fox Movies called The Duelists.
Oh yeah,
I
it's
was
his
like,
first film.
yeah, I was like, oh wow, this is really good. But I didn't watch the whole thing. And then and then I saw it's Ridley Scott. Like, okay.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And it's about this real life story of these guys from the 17th century.
Yeah, they were
or something
dueling
that
all the
kept
time.
dueling each other.
Yeah, it's like a funny setup as well. It really, it's very interesting. Has a lot of great editing, montage.
That Coppola saw from him. The Duelist.
Yeah, I saw it. It made a post.
Yeah.
And then Ridley Scott used sets from One from the Heart on Blade Runner.
On Blade Runner, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's really cool.
That's all for today, folks. If you'd like to reach out and suggest a film for the next episode, you can find us on the podcast official Instagram and Facebook pages. Feel free to subscribe, share this episode, or simply give us a like. That's how our podcast can grow ever more groovy. And if you're on YouTube and want to see more videos like this, check out this next video right here. Thanks for listening, and see you next time. Enjoy.
I've seen things you
Electric
wouldn't
Dreams.
believe.
I've seen things you wouldn't believe.
On the shore of Orion.